My name is Kyle Matthews. Approximately 20 years ago, a genocide was unleashed in Rwanda. A Canadian general, Romeo Dallaire, was in charge of the peacekeeping mission. This genocide would go on to take 10,000 people's lives a day for 3 months. The first few weeks of the atrocities, the UN Security Council pulled back most of the troops under General Dallaire's command. He refused to go. All the world's attention was focused on South Africa, in which the apartheid regime was going to transfer power to Nelson Mandela. Now, there were some brave souls outside of Rwanda that did all they could to try to get the world powers to do something. Human Rights Watch, led by the late Alison DeForge, traveled to Washington the third week of April, a time when probably 200,000 people have already lost their lives. And she was able to bring a Rwandan who left, was able to get out of the Rwanda from the genocide, escape the genocide, to meet with Anthony Lake, President Clinton's national security advisor. What did he tell them? He said, "You have to make more noise. You have to make more noise." He basically said, we're not going to do anything unless the media is covering the story and it's breathing down our neck, or if you're protesting in Washington with thousands of people to make us notice and perhaps do something. Now, this is very troubling. A country that signs the Genocide Convention, much like Canada, does not act in the face of atrocities. And you have to wonder if Romeo Dallaire had a Twitter account or a Facebook account in 1994, it didn't exist, mind you, would things have been different? Could he have bypassed the bureaucracy of the UN? Could he have contacted the BBC to share images? Could he have sent a tweet to Bill Clinton showing children huddled with their mothers, demanding protection, asking where the international community was? We'll never find out. Now, the world was a very different place in 94. None of us had the internet. There were no smartphones. If you're one of the chosen few who had a cell phone that weighed about 25 pounds, you were one of the few. But we've undergone progressive change. And social media has absolutely changed foreign policy. It has changed how foreign governments make decisions, particularly in democracies. And it has actually opened up the floor for civil society to participate, for individuals like you to participate as well. We see in this year, in 2014, 2 countries similar to Rwanda that are undergoing civil war and massive conflict at risk of genocide: South Sudan and the Central African Republic. Now, unlike in 94, none of these countries have had the UN peacekeepers pulled out of them. Actually, the Central African Republic is about to get 12,000 troops, in part because of NGOs, human rights groups, and activists that have been very, very loud on social media, sharing images. There are many examples of how social media has actually changed and will not allow the international community to pull the same stunts as it did in the past. We are watching them. The UN Secretary General traveled to the Central African Republic, tweeted images of people camped out in an airport asking for help. The U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Samantha Power, traveled to the Central African Republic herself, tweeting for the international community to do something, showing messages of support. So my point is that if you think social media is not a powerful tool, you have to ask yourself, why are certain governments, like Iran, shutting down Twitter and Facebook? They did that in 2009. You'll see an image of that, because it's a powerful transformational tool that can be used to promote human rights. Now, I think there are 3 ways that you can actually use social media to mobilize human rights, to protect human rights. And the 21st century, let's get this straight, is not going to be a very good time for authoritarian regimes and control freaks. You can't control the internet. You can't control the media, at least not yet. I think there are 3 main points. One is how to amplify the power of witness. 2, how to build global networks. And 3, how to generate political will. Those are the 3 tools, the 3 important things that make social media a game changer. Now, the power of witness. The power of witness is a basic concept that if you can take images of atrocities taking place, you can change the behavior of the government committing them or of the non-state actors, or at the very least, you can hold that evidence and use it for prosecution down the road. And I think if we look at how Human Rights Watch has worked in the Central African Republic, they went into the Central African Republic knowing that Nelson Mandela just passed away in South Africa. The world was focusing on Mandela. You remember the news media covering his death, which is important, but they weren't focusing on the Central African Republic. And what they were able to do was to combine one of the world's best photographers with live tweeting from the ground to share that, to get people around the world to share that information, to raise awareness. And it eventually resulted in the major news agencies actually inviting them on to talk about what they saw, to talk about the desperation, what was needed. And we've seen increased international support to help stabilize the Central African Republic. I think that's a game changer. It's very important. We also have other examples of NGOs, civil society actors, using technology to protect human rights. And I can think of no other better example of George Clooney, the celebrity, who put a lot of money into an NGO in the US and created something called the Satellite Sentinel Project, where they put up a commercial satellite over the border of Sudan and South Sudan. 20 years ago, only major powers could do that. I don't even think Canada could do that 20 years ago. Now you have NGOs that are able to get that information, and they've been able to use documented evidence, photographs of Sudan troops moving into border areas, of villages being burnt, and finding systematic patterns where they weren't committed naturally. They were lighted by someone. And they'd be able to put that, share it through social media, and get it in the media. And I think these are innovative ways in which human rights groups are embracing technology and social media to help protect civil rights. Building global networks. You'll see certain images of the Arab Spring in which closed societies would not allow individual citizens to meet in public, to form civil society groups, or even to really have access to information. Social media has allowed people to actually find each other, others like them with similar opinions, in cyberspace and organize and share information and try to transform change to build better societies. Also, very, very important is the aspect of building political will. When General Dallaire was abandoned by the US, also by Canada, in 1994, he had no way of reaching out. He couldn't communicate to the network of NGOs. But now we have groups that are actually mastering social media to actually raise awareness. Many of you have seen the Stop Clooney campaign. Whether you agree with the video or not, it went viral. It had more than 1 million tweets per day for the first week. It had over 100 million views on YouTube. And it actually forced the African Union, that was pretty much sitting on its hands and knees, to get engaged and actually put together a task force to try to track them down. Last month, on the 3rd anniversary of the Syrian civil war, people around the world mobilized, online and in cities, across the globe, in solidarity with the With Syria campaign. The campaign reached nearly 250 million people on Twitter and sent a powerful message to political leaders that doing nothing is not a policy option. It's important to actually keep on, even if our leaders aren't leading, to not let them go. And then we have this week, while the media didn't really pick up on the abduction of 200 schoolgirls by the murderous group called Boko Haram, that's also bombed the United Nations, that's actually been attacking civilians nonstop for the past couple of years, created the Bring Back Our Girls campaign that actually went viral and actually is now putting pressure on legislative leaders in the US and others to try to help the Nigerian government that's been trying, didn't want any international help to deal with it. So we are seeing social media as becoming an online platform to actually share information and to bring about change. Not as fast as we'd like, but it is something that I think is very, very important because these conspiracies of silence are now somewhat a thing of the past. Leaders cannot tell us they don't know what's going on. They do know. And we have the ability now to get that information and share it with other people around the world. Now, where are we going in the future? I think it's a very exciting time. If you work in human rights, there are many different ways to mobilize technology and social media for human rights. But I think of no other most pertinent example of how crowdsourcing technologies and satellite imagery can be used by social media users to amplify their collective efforts towards the betterment of humanity. Many of you have followed the disappearance of the Malaysian Airlines Flight 370. The same company that George Clooney uses to collect images over the Sudan border, posted many, many photos online. Within a matter of 3 days, over 2.3 million social media users across the planet looked through all of their maps of the Thailand Sea, scanned it, and they pooled their collective resources for a common good. Imagine what we could do if we could unify people, citizens around the world, to do that for human rights, to deal with that for people in closed societies where there's a risk of genocide. It would be a game changer. And so those organizations and individuals committed to making Never Again a reality have the incredible opportunity to mobilize social media to make more noise. Thank you.